Hey guys, so I wasn't gonna make a video today, but guess what? Been a hot minute, Isotope. Remember when oh yeah, that's how we ended off the other episode last time. And what do you know, our pockets are full as per usual. Wasn't gonna make a video today, guys, but something happened today, and I feel like it's worthy of talking about. Very sad series of events has occurred. Bernie Sanders has dropped out of the race. And Bernie was the only, politician I find he cared for the people, right? So now that he's dropped out, it's like, who's left? We've got Donald Trump, Trumpy boy. It's funny. It's a very interesting tension because you've got a lot of people in the not only across the world but in the United States who think Donald Trump is a complete fool. But on the other hand, it's basically common knowledge that he is gonna be reelected easily. Everyone's always said, oh, he's guaranteed second term. And the polls, they tend to show that as well. So you've got this man who is, without a doubt, the biggest, joke the White House has ever seen. But at the same time, everybody says, oh, he'll be reelected. And I'm sad to report that now that Joe Biden is the candidate, that's likely to be the case. So the sad news that happened today is that our man, Bernie Sanders, has decided to endorse Joe Biden. So before we get into that discussion, I guess we can talk about endorsements. Why is everybody, freaking out about this? It's an endorsement, okay? So what is an endorsement? It's basically the symbolic gesture where you're saying, I'm putting my confidence in this person. But if you've been following the Democratic race, you've likely come across some Joe Biden, some attack ads that depict him as saying some nonsense things like, I want to cut Social Security, very weak commitment or lack of commitment to a Medicare for all. So essentially, and to keep it simple for the purposes of this video, Joe Biden doesn't have any of Bernie's policies in mind. But even that being said, Bernie decided to go ahead and endorse Joe Biden. Now, from what I've read, a lot of major outlets are saying, oh, not a big surprise. These two men, both from the Democratic Party. So it's quite natural that Sanders would do his duty as a member of the Democratic tribe and endorse the man who's at least represents or is supposed to represent what his side of the argument does. But there's a very weird thing going on in the Democratic Party right now, which is it's definitely been going on for quite some time, at least since 2016, where you've got two sects of Democrats. You have the centrist Democrats, and these are the Democrats who are happy to throw their support behind Joe, or maybe even they were planning to vote for Joe this whole time. I mean, if you've been following, then Joe Biden won a lot of the primary elections. That's why Sanders had to drop out. He had no path forward, essentially. So he had to drop out for the sake of the party, basically. Because you kind of want a unified party going into the election, especially in the later stages. And he was facing a lot of heat for not dropping out. Whoopi Goldberg notoriously went in on him on The View, and it was very nasty, very dirty interview. But you have this fracturing in the Democratic Party with the centrists, the Joe Biden supporters essentially, and the progressives. And the progressives were very much in favor of Bernie. It's hashtag Bernie or bust, right? It's him or nothing for the progressives. So this is why yesterday, when Bernie decided to endorse, hey, okay, it's causing a lot of people to scratch their heads because their principles really do not align. That's one part of it, and another part is that a lot of people who are Bernie or bust, they're, you know, as much as they are loyal to Bernie, they're more loyal to the progressive cause. So even if Bernie, you know, says, hey, I'm endorsing Joe, a lot of progressives are not falling in line, basically, which is it's causing even further fracturing. Because you have the sect of Democrats who are now blaming the progressives, because a lot of progressives are saying, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. The centrists are saying, you progressives are going to be the reason that Donald Trump is reelected. Now, I don't believe that that's a fair statement. But what else would I expect from the centrists? I mean, on one hand, the centrists, they may be well-intentioned because a lot of them, I'm sure, and I'm quite sure this was Sanders' reasoning for endorsing Joe Biden, was that they just want to beat Donald Trump. But it seems to me that if you wanted to beat Donald Trump, then why didn't you vote for Bernie Sanders? There's definitely a disconnect in the Democratic Party. There's a lack of cohesive vision. And I think the larger problem goes back to the two-party system. Because you've got Bernie he's forced to play the game to a certain degree, where he's running for president of the United States, which has a very entrenched sort of way of doing their politics, which is the two-party system. Bernie's not really a Democrat. The Democrats, you know, over time have shifted more and more to the right. Bernie's a progressive. There's not a progressive party in the United States. There's hardly even a liberal party in the United States. So where does a progressive like Bernie fit in? Well, the sad truth is that he doesn't. Not as things are currently. Now, of course, there are more than two parties. There's the Green Party, you know, an assortment of other parties, but the problem is nobody's going to pay attention to these parties just because of how the system is set up. And a big part of the system is the media, because without the media, you're not going to get the attention that you need in order to that was epic. You know, you need to get attention. That's why Donald Trump did so well. A lot of these parties that fall outside the two-party system are kind of regarded as jokes. And the American political sort of discourse is too narrow to really consider any candidate outside of the two-party system as a serious candidate. So it's a very unfortunate situation that Sanders is in, and it's easy to see why the Democrats have kind of gotten themselves into this position where there are the centrists and the progressives, and the beef on Twitter right now is just, it's explosive. You have, as I said, like the rhetoric of blaming the progressives, saying that the progressives are going to give Donald Trump his second term because they refuse to fall in line and they refuse to endorse or put their support behind Joe Biden. It is not the progressives' fault. It is, first of all, it's the system's fault because the media, which is very much tied to the political system because it's all corporate capitalism. The media and the system, they picked Joe Biden over Sanders, even though it is common knowledge that Bernie Sanders would have the best chance against Trump. That's been the case since 2016. He's led Trump in many polls. So it's always been the case that Sanders would likely beat Donald Trump. But the Democrats, they're not satisfied with that. Even though Bernie Sanders is a Democrat in name, the broader establishment doesn't want that. They would rather stick with Donald Trump. Of course, that's why they threw their support behind Biden, because Biden is basically Clinton, but even weaker, an even weaker candidate than Hillary Clinton. So this election it's going to be a joke. I mean, Biden is going to get destroyed in the debates. The Democratic Party is going to be in shambles. They already are. And I feel really bad for the progressives because they're sticking to their principles, but they don't have a voice in the current system as it is. And understandably, a lot of Americans are very, I want to say, they feel left behind by the system because this is what the system gives them. You know, a lot of Bernie supporters, they donated to his campaign. He raised the most funding independent of like big money interests in the history of American elections. And when he dropped out, there were a lot of broken hearts, a lot of people demanding refunds. But that ain't how it works, you know, and it is understandable. A lot of people wanted Sanders to stay until the very end, but he had his reasons for dropping out. I'm sure he was facing a lot of pressure to drop out. So it's I feel really bad for the progressives, but this just shows you that the system is in dire need of adjustment. And adjustment is happening very little by little. You know, Sanders, he made a dent in the system. Like, a lot of people are mad at Sanders. And I understand that, you know, there's a lot of emotions right now. A lot of voters are feeling left behind. Everybody knows, like, if you're a leftist, you know that Biden isn't going to do anything for you. So, yes, like, feel all of that out, 100%. But don't forget that Sanders, he fought, and he has been fighting for decades for the people that have been left behind. So, I would say don't blame Sanders, blame the system. There's a lot greater forces at work, and these are the same forces that led your candidate, our candidate, Sanders, because I very much wanted him to win. He seems to me to be the only authentic populist candidate. You know, Trump definitely, he's a fake populist, right? Like, and he's very good at it. But I believe that Sanders, as president, which unfortunately it doesn't seem we'll ever see, I believe he would have enacted policies that would have actually helped people. I mean, you saw he was a big leader on the bailout. Unfortunately, the coronavirus bailout was co-opted by corporate forces to force in a bailout of the big industries to the tune of trillions of dollars, because that's what they're going to do. Because, guys, it's a broken system, and that's what we have to keep in mind. You know, you can blame individual people. You could, you know, we can say all day, okay, yeah, Trump, blah blah blah. But it goes farther than just Trump. Like, you have to think broader than that. That is my suggestion. I guess I really wanted Sanders to win. I'm very much I'm in the same boat as you guys. I feel heartbroken, but at the same time, it's honestly not surprising. America is not ready for a legitimate progressive. Especially, I mean, you would think after 4 years of, you know, a buffoon in the White House, that you would think that Americans would be relishing in this opportunity for a breath of fresh air. But it seems as though a lot of Americans still aren't paying attention. They're not doing their research. They're not seeing that Biden is not in the best shape to take on Donald Trump. And what you're going to get is just 4 more years of the same. And it's not the people's fault necessarily. It is hard to place blame in this whole thing. And I understand a lot of people, because they're upset, they want to place their blame on Sanders himself. But I don't think that's the right move. I think part of looking broader is also looking forward to the future and understanding that even Sanders' the little ripple that he made in this election, and the fact that people are upset, it shows you that there's a shift in consciousness happening in American politics. And I think that it is possible, although there will be a lot of struggle, but it is possible that America could have a legitimate third party with the Green Party. I think that's the best solution for progressives, is to vote Green. I don't want to come across as though I am supporting Donald Trump indirectly by suggesting don't vote for Biden, but fundamentally, I don't think Biden is that different from Trump. So I think, I mean, again, looking broader, the two-party system is kind of a sham. Like, all politicians are on the same team. They're all part of the elite, and they all want to just keep you down. I mean, I don't think Sanders was like that, and I think that's why he faced so much flack from the establishment. But I think progressives, you're feeling heartbroken, vote Green, make the Green Party a legitimate third party, because that way you won't have all this inflammatory rhetoric among lefties. If you're a lefty, or if you consider yourself a lefty and you're voting Joe Biden, I understand that you probably feel heartbroken as well by the fact that you feel antagonized by progressives who seem to be indirectly supporting Trump. But I think that if there was a legitimate third party, there wouldn't be this fracturing going on. everybody would understand where their beliefs lie. And I'm just blessed that I live in Canada, where we've got more than 2 parties. We have at least 3, and then some more on the fringes, but not to say that our election system is perfect. It's very far from it. But there are different ways to look at things, different ways to approach solutions. And yeah, that's really it. I just wanted to go on a little rant. I hope for the best for America. I know that, as a Canadian, probably take my perspective with a grain of salt, but at the same time, we are all Americans. We all live on this side of the earth, and we all have similar origins, and I think that we all need to be united. And obviously, Americans and Canadians, we should cooperate to the best of our abilities. I'm just very interested in American politics. That's where I'm coming from with all this. And also, as a student of media, I do like to look at things in a big picture sense. I know it's very different from my other videos, but I thought, why not take an opportunity to talk about something important, something timely, and maybe I don't know, at least get people thinking about something that affects everybody's lives, which is the system and the structure that we live in and through, and our lives are very much directly affected by these decisions and these moments in time. So that's it. I know there wasn't much gameplay there. I did a lot of stuff. Just a lot of collecting stuff. I mean, you saw the video. I did want to introduce Aurora, but she's sleeping. So, and understandable, it's what, 2:14 a.m. So this was an unexpected video for me too. But I hope you're all having a good day, and take care of yourself and your loved ones, and each other. Take care of each other too. Whether you love somebody or not, it doesn't matter. We're all in this together. Reach out to someone you disagree with, and try to find some common ground, or at least understand each other, because we're not all that separate. All right.